Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientso Ramokgopa says there are still 1.6 million households who do not have electricity in this country. He calls them the missing voice in conversations about power cuts and load reduction in the country. Ramakgopa says that government has begun rethinking its strategy about ending energy poverty among those households. He was saying this during an appearance before the Human Rights Commission's inquiry that's looking into the impact of so-called load reduction on people's rights.
So there's a missing voice in the conversation. That missing voice in the conversation is the 1.6 million households that don't have access to electricity at all. So when we have conversation around load shedding, load reduction, there's 1.6 million people. So if we assume that every household is 5 occupants, so there's 8 million people who don't have electricity at all. So if you come to think of it, it's 24 hours of load shedding, 24 hours of load reduction, 364 days a year. So I think it's important that I make that point. I'm making that point because we are doing everything to address that. Where do you find those people? You find them in villages. These are people who don't have a voice, so they can go and block the streets. They can do it, but they are far-flung in a rural area. They are not going to disturb any traffic movement. They are not going to disturb any economic activity because there is no economic activity in that space. A lot of them might not have access to modern gadgets. They might not be able to frame their plight in a manner that is attractive to the audience that cares to listen. So there's 8 million people that are not in this room that have been excluded. I'm saying excluded because of the nature of the conversation before us. I'm not suggesting that they are neglected. So it's an important point. I'm saying they're excluded because the conversation is around load reduction.